So in the previous section, we talked about the process of moving or reassigning a feature to a new location. We talked about rotating, we talked about physically moving, shifting, etc. I think what's probably more relevant for this workflow and something that it may be more relevant for the types of vector editing that you would anticipate using a global mapper, we can change the structure of the feature itself. For a line, for instance, if that line does not quite align with the underlying imagery, you can tweak that, in this case our polygon, and you can see as we now have our polygon sitting on top of the imagery, it doesn't line up, and we would assume that the imagery is a better representation of where that polygon should be, so we need to perform some edits to the structure of the feature itself. In order for you to determine the structure or to reassign the structure, you need to have the vertices displayed for the polygon. Now, there's a couple of ways that this can be done. You may actually be seeing those displayed already, the vertices being blue dots that will appear around the edge corresponding with each of the shape points. There is a configuration option that enables the display of vertices automatically when a feature is selected. And if you're seeing that, you're all set, you're good to go. In my case, that's not the case because I've disabled that function. Instead, I can enable the display of vertices manually using this tool. And if you're seeing what I'm seeing on the screen, I would suggest you follow me and click this button. This is again a shortcut to a configuration which enables the display of vertices. But at the end of this process, whichever method you choose, you should see some blue dots around the edge because that forms the basis of the structure of our polygon. And again, I said before, this would apply to a line as well. Now, as well as being able to move the feature as a whole, we can move individual vertices. And I want to begin this process by demonstrating that process. Two very obvious ones that are apparent at the bottom of the polygon, lower left and right corners, southeast and southwest. You can see these two vertices are offset from where we see the corner of the body of water, the lake, in the image. So what we need to do in this case is select the vertex. Now, the way that you can do that, the easiest way is to drag a box that encompasses that point or that dot, and you can see it's now highlighted with a red circle. That's an indication I can now perform an edit on that vertex, and we're going to do a few of these. We're going to use a few different tools to show how we can change a vertex. First one, very simple one, is to move it, and again this can be initiated from the toolbar. There's a separate move vertex option here. You'll see the button right where my cursor is located, moved selected vertices. Now this can be done collectively, not that useful in my opinion to move multiple vertices at the same time. More likely you're going to do this at an individual level, and I've only got one vertex selected, so when I click this button, I'm back in move mode again. I don't know if you can see my cursor, or better yet, see your cursor on the screen. It now says move. I can literally pick that corner up, and you'll see none of the other vertices are moving. The polygon itself is not moving. Just that shape point, I will drop it closer to the corner of the lake there. Now I want to repeat that process for the next vertex over here. Again, drag to select. Once again, go to the move selected vertices button top of the screen, and enable that, and again move that vertex to its correct location, and that looks a little bit better. We've tweaked just that section obviously to make it align better. Now we could, if we wanted to take the time, fine-tune multiple vertices around the edge, and by all means in your own time please feel free to do that. We're not going to take the time to do that in the video. So that is one level of editing, which is probably the most common, where you literally shift vertices to make sure your feature is aligning. The other thing that we can do with vertices is delete them. If there is a vertex that for whatever reason you don't need, maybe it represents a structure which doesn't represent reality, you can simply remove that vertex, essentially straightening the line. Now I'm going to use this example right here. I don't know if yours is aligned the same way. Feel free to select any additional vertex you want, but in this case I could probably remove this. It will not overly change the structure of my polygon. The way that we delete a vertex is a right-click option. And within the right-click option, there is actually a delete vertex menu item here. It's not a button in the toolbar. It's something you'll have to go to a menu to find. I'm going to show you how you can simplify that in just a second. There is also an entire vertex editing section. I'm not going to spend the time to go through all of these, but you can do things like specify the coordinates of a vertex. There's options for smoothing the structure of a feature by inserting vertices to create less angular lines. So a lot of different tools in here, including delete. deleting again, you'll see that as an option, but that delete option is elevated to the kind of a higher level here. Simply choose that and it does exactly as described. That vertex is now gone. Can be done singularly or once again can be done collectively. Now the final vertex editing tool, which again is another useful one, is the option to insert a vertex. Now this would be the tool that you'll use to apply a more precise alignment for your line. Maybe in this section, in my case, I've missed a section of the shore here. Maybe I want to put another vertex right where my cursor is located to make it a little more curved, if you like. The way I do that is using this tool where my cursor is located. Now this will not be available. Indeed, all of these vertex editing tools will not be available until you enable the display of your vertices. We've done that, so this tool is now available. It would be gray otherwise. Selecting that tool, I simply click at the location where I want that vertex. Now we know we can move that after the fact, but right here, again, where my cursor is located, I'm simply going to click at that point, and you can see it's placed that vertex. One thing to note about that tool, it's a one-off operation. If I wanted to add an additional vertex, I go back, select it again, and again, we'll add another one over here, fine-tuning the alignment of the boundary of my lake each time. Sometimes I find that action to have to go back and select the tool again a little cumbersome, a little inconvenient. I'm going to show you how you can simplify that. And I'm going to introduce a component of Global Mapper that's not directly relevant to the digitizer, but certainly relevant to this workflow. In my case, the feature, the component in question is on the second row of my toolbar, all the way over on the left side here. And you can see it's a favorites toolbar. This will record by default every action you perform in Global Mapper. And obviously specific to the digitizer, in my case, I have recorded deleting vertices, inserting vertices, and moving vertices. These are the actions I performed. It's quite likely yours is longer than this if you've been doing other things. Now, a couple of things we can do here. We can apply keyboard shortcuts to certain functions. We can assign them as favorites, or we can simply select them from this automatically created dropdown, which in my case, insert vertex. I want to use that function again. In order for me to enable that function, I can either click the adjacent star button, or as noted here when I see the pop-up, use the Control and Enter keyboard shortcut. And that's what I'm going to do right now. If you want to follow along, just make sure Insert Vertex is selected here. I'm going to use Control Enter. Now you'll notice that has immediately initiated that tool. I don't have to go to the toolbar again. I simply select it each time. Control and Enter every time activates that tool, and I can fine-tune my polygon just by using that very simple keyboard shortcut to activate that selected tool. So a little bit of a kind of a housekeeping function related to what we're doing to simplify. In this case, it was just the assignment of a new vertex. But again, 3 different ways that we demonstrated to modify the structure, in this case of a polygon, could be of a line, adding vertices, deleting vertices, moving vertices, all of which result in a newly structured feature. I'm going to turn off the vertex display. I'm going to deselect, I'm going to hit the escape key on my keyboard to deselect my polygon, and I want to save the workspace at this stage. We've done a lot to this polygon. We might as well save our work. I'm just going to use the Save Workspace option here in the toolbar, Control S, the keyboard shortcut, and it will preserve all of these edits that we have applied.